Is America losing its global influence? While the US was once the world's undisputed superpower, the tides are turning fast. In 2025, an unexpected shift is underway. More and more countries are turning away from Washington and embracing Beijing. But why? And which nations are leading this pivot to China? In the 21st century, the global power balance is rapidly shifting. While the United States has long enjoyed dominance in global diplomacy, trade, and military affairs, 2025 is proving to be a year of transformation. Several countries, fed up with American sanctions, conditional aid, or ideological clashes, are now turning to China, a rising economic and technological juggernaut. This video explores the top 10 countries ditching the US for China in 2025. These aren't just minor players. We're talking about strategic nations whose decisions could reshape global alliances, economies, and even the future of warfare. Number 10. Argentina has steadily realigned its foreign policy, choosing China as a primary economic partner over the United States. Crippled by debt and IMF conditions, Argentina found a more flexible lifeline in China's financial support. In 2024, Buenos Aires joined the BRICS alliance, seeking multipolar economic balance. China offered Argentina billions in infrastructure loans without demanding austerity reforms. The two countries have expanded cooperation in agriculture, energy, and mining, especially lithium, a critical component for electric batteries. China is now Argentina's largest agricultural buyer, overtaking the US and EU. Chinese companies are developing dams, roads, and ports across Argentina. In 2025, China finalized a major deal to fund Argentina's fourth nuclear plant. The Argentine peso is now partially backed by the Chinese yuan through currency swap agreements. Political leaders see China as a more respectful partner, free from colonial undertones. Chinese tourists and students are also increasingly visible across major Argentine cities. Argentina is also integrating with China in space research and satellite technology. The country's media and public opinion reflect growing anti-US sentiment, fueled by economic frustration. Argentina's strategic pivot toward China is driven by both necessity and national pride. Number 9. Hungary has increasingly distanced itself from traditional Western alliances and is strengthening economic ties with China. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has openly criticized the US and embraced Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. In 2023, Hungary became the first EU country to host a Chinese university campus, Fudan University, despite domestic protests. This move marked a significant shift in education diplomacy. Chinese investment in Hungarian infrastructure, especially in railways and battery plants, has grown exponentially. The Budapest-Belgrade Railway, financed largely by China, is a flagship example. Hungary also became a regional hub for Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers in 2024. Trade volume between the two nations hit a record high, overtaking Hungary's exports to the US. China now offers Hungary alternative financing without political conditions. Hungary has repeatedly vetoed EU statements critical of China's human rights record. This signals deeper strategic alignment with Beijing. US officials have raised concerns, but Hungary continues pursuing its independent foreign policy. Orbán sees China as a counterbalance to EU pressure. In 2025, Hungary formally joined multiple Chinese-led technology and infrastructure forums. Its pivot away from the US is no longer symbolic, it's strategic and deeply embedded in national policy. Number 8. Indonesia's growing partnership with China is rooted in trade, investment, and shared regional interests. China is now the biggest investor in Indonesian infrastructure, including ports and railways. The Jakarta-Bandung high-speed rail project, backed by China, symbolizes this shift. Indonesia joined BRICS Plus in 2024 with China's support. The US has lost ground due to inconsistent policy in Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, China offers predictable support and fast funding. Military training programs and maritime patrols are being conducted jointly. The yuan is now accepted in bilateral trade and central bank reserves. Indonesia's leaders appreciate China's non-interference stance. Educational and tourism ties have grown significantly. Chinese tech firms dominate Indonesia's e-commerce and digital payments. Public trust in China as a development partner is increasing. In 2025, Indonesia's pivot to China is not just economic, it's strategic and long-term. Number 7. South Africa, a founding BRICS member, has always had strong relations with China. But in 2025, the shift away from the US is more pronounced. China is now South Africa's largest trading partner by far. Infrastructure, mining, and tech sectors all benefit from Chinese investment. Beijing has funded major transportation and energy projects across the country. Diplomatic cooperation is robust, especially on African affairs and global South priorities. China supplies military equipment and training to South African forces. Cultural ties are expanding through universities and media. South Africa supports China's stance on global governance reforms. The US is seen as less committed to Africa compared to China. Local businesses prefer Chinese financing due to fewer restrictions. The yuan is being accepted in African Development Bank dealings. Public opinion in South Africa favors China over the US. In 2025, South Africa openly prioritizes China as its top global partner. Number 6. Turkey's relationship with the US has grown tense over issues like Syria, arms deals, and NATO disputes. Meanwhile, Ankara has expanded its ties with China in trade, finance, and diplomacy. As part of the Belt and Road Initiative, China is investing in Turkish railways, ports, and logistics hubs. Turkey joined the BRICS Plus alliance with China's backing in 2024. Beijing offers loans and infrastructure support with no political strings attached. Unlike the US, China does not interfere in Turkey's domestic politics. Trade between the two countries is growing rapidly. Turkey is also buying military technology from China. Cultural and educational exchanges are increasing every year. Chinese tourists and students now arrive in record numbers. The yuan is becoming more common in Turkish financial transactions. Turkey sees China as a long-term partner for economic growth. In 2025, Turkey's pivot to China is no longer subtle, it's strategic and visible. Number 5. Brazil's alignment with China has grown steadily, with 2025 marking a clear shift away from US influence. China is Brazil's largest export market, especially for soybeans, iron ore and meat. President Lula's government favors multipolar diplomacy and closer ties with Beijing. Brazil joined China in supporting a global currency system that reduces reliance on the dollar. Infrastructure deals and digital technology investments are increasing from Chinese firms. The Belt and Road Initiative is expanding into Latin America via Brazil. Cultural exchange programs between universities are booming. Military technology cooperation and cyber training projects have started. US-Brazil relations weakened over environmental disputes and trade tensions. China respects Brazil's Amazon policies without political interference. Brazilian companies are now issuing bonds in yuan. BRICS collaboration led by China gives Brazil a larger global voice. In 2025, Brazil sees China as its preferred partner for growth and influence. Number 4. Venezuela's alliance with China deepened as US sanctions crippled its economy. China provided financial aid, infrastructure support, and oil investments when the West turned away. Massive loans from China helped Caracas stabilize key sectors. In return, Venezuela prioritized oil exports to Beijing. The US push for regime change distanced the two nations politically. China, however, respected Venezuela's internal governance and offered diplomatic backing. Joint energy ventures have grown significantly since 2023. Military and cybersecurity cooperation is now expanding too. China is helping modernize Venezuela's ports and communication networks. Cultural cooperation is also on the rise, including Confucius Institutes. The yuan is used increasingly in trade deals, bypassing the dollar. Chinese tech firms dominate Venezuela's digital infrastructure. In 2025, Venezuela views China not just as a partner but as its primary global ally. Number 3. Russia and China have forged a powerful strategic partnership, especially after Moscow's fallout with the West. As the US and EU imposed sanctions, China stepped in to support Russia economically. Trade between the two countries reached record highs in 2025. Energy exports like oil and gas now flow eastward through major pipelines to China. The two nations conduct regular joint military drills, showcasing their growing defense ties. Politically, both oppose a unipolar world dominated by the US. Russia sees China as a crucial partner in resisting Western influence. Technology sharing has increased, especially in AI, cybersecurity, and surveillance. China's Belt and Road routes pass through Russian territory, adding to mutual interest. Diplomatic stances at the UN often align closely. Cultural exchanges, media collaborations, and tourism are also expanding. The dollar is being replaced with local currencies in bilateral trade. In 2025, Russia stands firmly beside China, leaving its old ties with the US behind. Number 2. Saudi Arabia's pivot to China marks a historic geopolitical shift in 2025. Once a firm US ally, the kingdom is now deepening ties with Beijing. Oil is central. China is now the largest buyer of Saudi crude. The two nations have launched major joint investment funds. Diplomatic visits between Riyadh and Beijing have become frequent. Saudi Arabia recently joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a dialogue partner. Military cooperation is expanding, including Chinese arms sales to Riyadh. The US-Saudi relationship weakened over human rights issues and regional disagreements. China, however, maintains a policy of non-interference. The Saudi Vision 2030 plan aligns with China's Belt and Road projects. Technology partnerships are rising, including 5G infrastructure built by Chinese firms. Educational and cultural exchanges are on the rise. The kingdom is also exploring trading oil in yuan instead of dollars. In 2025, Saudi Arabia's bond with China is deeper than ever before.
Number 1.
Pakistan has gradually shifted its alliance towards China due to strategic, economic, and geopolitical reasons. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, a flagship project under China's Belt and Road Initiative, has strengthened their bond. Chinese investment in infrastructure, energy, and ports like water has far surpassed American contributions. Islamabad sees Beijing as a more reliable long-term partner. Military ties have also expanded with regular joint exercises and weapons sales. The US-Pakistan relationship has declined due to trust deficits and differing interests in the region. China, on the other hand, avoids pressuring Pakistan on internal policies. Public perception of China is more favorable in Pakistan than the US now. Beijing's support at global forums like the UN has further increased Pakistan's tilt. Economically, China is now Pakistan's top trading partner. Educational exchange programs and scholarships have also expanded. The cultural influence is growing through language institutes and media collaboration. All signs show Pakistan now leans more towards China than the US in 2025. So there you have it, 10 countries ditching the US for China in 2025. From oil-rich kingdoms to rising Asian economies, the shift is undeniable. This isn't just a diplomatic change, it's a transformation of global order. As China rises and America faces internal and external challenges, nations are re-evaluating their alliances. The old world was bipolar. The new world may be sinocentric. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for more eye-opening geopolitical analysis.